Good morning, everyone, to our Lac St. Anne County budget meeting for Friday, March 20th, 2026. It says up there County Council regular meeting. Is that a regular meeting? I think it's a budget meeting. So just call to order. Do we have any public members wishing to speak? Anne, do we have anyone? No? Okay, thank you very much. Agenda, you all have the agenda before you, I hope. And any additions to the agenda? Carla?
Yeah, I would like to bring two things. One, discuss the 2025 surplus.
Okay. Do you want that before we go through the budget or after? Probably after.
We can talk about it afterwards.
Okay. Budget surplus, so we'll call that 5A2. Okay, anything else?
Yes, I'd like to also have a discussion about the wastewater lagoon tax bylaw that's going to council next week for first reading, but I wouldn't mind having a little discussion with you guys today about it.
Okay, so we'll go A3 then, or yeah, let's go A3. So that's wastewater tax. All right. Any other additions to the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda. Dale? Discussion? All in favor? Carried. All right. So we'll start with 5A1, Corporate Services Finance, the 2026 Proposed Operating and Capital Budgets, version number 5. So that's the reason of our meeting. Yeah. So Carla, it's all yours.
Okay, good morning, County Council. So I'm here to present the version 5 of the 2026 operating capital budgets. As per council's direction, administration did do a big review of the budget to try and get the rate for the residential taxes reduced by 2%. We have done that. We also, because of the ratio with non-residential tax rates to the residential, we also had to decrease the non-residential tax rate as well too, to keep that in line with legislation. There is some, we were a little bit late getting this to for the public presentation just because we were waiting for the assessment dollars to come through. Our assessment team was able to get those numbers completed on Wednesday, late Wednesday afternoon. So we pulled the new assessment numbers, which would reflect the small business. An accurate cost of the small business. Small business assessment did increase by $2.5 million compared from 2025 to 2026. What that means is that because small business gets 75% of the non-residential rate, it would be a little bit less than what previous presented to council. We also had at the end of last week a big reduction in our linear tax. $4.2 million, our assessment. It equated to about almost $100,000 in municipal tax dollars. So we had to do some more juggling, and what I did to help us to keep the 2%, I did do a bit of reduction to what we were transferring to the Asset Revitalization Fund. But I'm going to discuss a few things with that in regards to our surplus at the end of this meeting, how we can definitely pump up that reserve transfer. So again, just going through some things. The assessment department also, there was some new assessment added for new development, which assisted with it as well too. And of course, our education tax requisition increased by $672,000, which doesn't affect us because we collect. It's a net zero effect to the budget. But it is increasing that for the ratepayers of Lac St. Anne County. And also added into the budget is 50% of the proposed Northeast Lagoon expansion project. We have to show in the budget, just it's an in and out, it's a no effect because we're going to get the borrowing bylaw, right? So it goes in as an expense and out. And then starting in 2027, if it goes through for all 3 readings, then we'll start seeing that debenture payment go in. But we just have to show it reflected in the budget document. Is there any questions so far?
Anyone? Questions? Nope, keep going.
All right. We can go to page 2 of 14, please. Yeah, that one. So before you is our summary page of all departments. As you see, the budget changes. There are lots budget reductions in the budget. There are some that are a little bit higher. For example, road transportation is a little higher. We had a couple of bridge projects that needed to be completed. They don't quite fit in our capital budget that we need to complete and get some repairs done on them. There's various things that happen within that budget. Our annual graveling, we did increase that a little bit to do more of a match with prior years, how it was going with annual graveling. Our dust control is up a little bit. We're anticipating a dry summer. So, but other things came down in that budget as well too. So ended up a net increase of $103,000. So that one did increase a bit. Most of them are down for sure. So at the end of the day, we were able to make the decreases that were requested. Okay. If you look at this budget too, I just want to just touch base on a few things on this sheet in particular. Our net deficit, I guess, at the end of the year is about a little over $5 million. And what we do is municipalities are bound to budget for amortization, but basically we take it off our cash flow at the end of the year. In the perfect world, it would be great if we could budget for amortization and actually fund it, but it is next to impossible. There's very few municipalities that can attain that. So, because that number really shows what we're saving away and putting away for all our asset infrastructure. But there's very few municipalities that can maintain that level. So, as you see in the bottom there, I will touch on the surplus in 2025 is $1.1 million. It is pretty high. There was some anomalies in there that we received some, maybe I'll talk about it now instead of the end of the meeting. There is some extra additional revenues that we received in the budget. There is some budgets that, at the end of the year, we kind of slowed down quite a bit at the end of the year and held slow on there. We had a increase in our non-residential of over $100,000 after the budget was set in 2025. So there's different anomalies in there. There's some positions that weren't filled. And of course, there were some projects that weren't completed, but we transferred them into 2026 so that we're not funding that twice. The ratepayers, if they pay for a project once in an operating system, that's all they need to pay for. So we moved that over. So, and maybe, like I said, we'll talk about that now. It's kind of a big number, and I'm going to probably try to take account to council for next week's meeting is a recommendation to take a portion of that and increase our tax rate stabilization reserve. We're about $433,000 in there right now. Maybe increase it up to close to $1 million, and the balance to go to the asset revitalization fund. That's going to be my recommendation next week, unless anybody has any other suggestions.
So, I know it's as you stated, it's an impossibility. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's very difficult. This particular budget, when you framed it correctly, it is actually a deficit budget. It's a deficit budget by about 5.3 million. We take a figure, the amortization, which isn't cash, which you said, it's a factor, and we put it back in to show a budget that's actually balanced. It's kind of an odd thing to be able to do that. Is there a way that in the future we can start to pick away at that, where we can become where we actually are a budget that is balanced without putting a factor that has no cash value but is actually taking cash out of the system to operate?
I mean, like I said, that is probably the dream of most municipalities. It really is to try to fund that amortization. It's huge. that came into effect for municipalities back in 2009. Because we funded fully, we always fund fully all of our assets, everything. And it's so treated so much different than the private sector. So, I mean, it would be great. We'd be in great shape. But to do that, we would have to significantly increase taxes. We'd have to cut service levels to bare minimums in order to sustain that.
So then you're saying without cutting services, there is no way to do it?
Yeah. Well, it's raise taxes to look at your service levels. It's all that. Like it'd have to be a multitude of things to try to make in order to make that work. It is, like I said, it's very few municipalities can fund amortization.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's for sure it's a difficult thing, but I think it's more than just cutting services. It's also, as this council has mentioned time and time again, we have to deal with efficiencies. Now, can we do 5 million in efficiencies? I don't think so. But there's certainly some room to improve efficiencies, which would make it a little bit easier to put some money into reserves. But to increase taxes by $5 million, there might be some pushback.
There could be.
Yeah.
But it is important. I think council needs to know it is very, very important to really try to focus on putting money away for reserves as much as we possibly can. You know, we don't know, like we've seen things come up in years where we've had emergency repairs or something's happened and we need to be able to fund that. And if we don't have those grant dollars available for that, we count on our reserves to fund that. We can count on debt, but we don't want to be in a lot of debt either. We're in good position for debt right now, but just the same, we want to make sure we have that available dollars to do things.
So that tax rate reserve equalization fund you were talking about, that's what it would be for?
Yeah, my recommendation would be to top up that tax rate stabilization reserve by about $600,000 to make it up to close to $1 million. That will assist in years where we could run in this could easily turn around when we do our budget for our wages and everything. We want to make sure we have enough in there for snowfalls, for all that type of stuff. We've been fortunate over the past few years. We haven't had the significant snowfalls or a lot of the flooding that sometimes occurs in the spring with the culverts and all that, and that becomes very, very costly. So having that tax rate stabilization reserve can assist council moving forward into the future if we run into a year where perhaps we run into a deficit. Because it has happened. It's happened here before, right?
Dale? Somebody else said no? No, I said Dale. But, okay, Barry.
I got a question on a couple different things here. Law enforcement's having a $50,000 bump. Do you know what the cost to run that department is? The actual cost to it?
For enforcement services?
Yeah, because we generate revenue from tickets and et cetera and by law enforcement. But what is our revenue versus cost?
Yeah, I can probably get those numbers pulled for you and get back to you on that. The reason there is definitely, we are trying to put in a bit into the reserves for enforcement services too. So that's going to bring them a little bit higher than that budget. Because we put in, I believe it's 30% for ticket revenue goes directly to reserve, and then we're doing 60% of the municipal participating municipalities agreements in. But we can get those numbers for you. I'm just not comfortable just pulling that number out of my head right now.
That's fair. And then I also have the one on the, could you give me the rundown on the fire services as well? Under fire, it's going up quite a bit.
Yeah, and a part of that, the fire services, of course, the increase there is to do with the debenture repayment for the loan that was taken out in 2025, the $1 million. So part of that is that increase.
Okay, but we didn't take the full $1 million on that, did we?
Yeah, the debt borrowing bylaw was, I think it was 1.8, and we took $1 million draw. Because it was at that point in time, we had 2 fire trucks on the thing, so we want to make sure we had the cash flow in our general account to be able to pay for them. So yes, I did make that draw for $1 million.
Okay, there's some left over that draw though, isn't there?
Yep, yeah, so I did draw one, and then we can do it. It's $1.8 million, I think, all told, is that borrowing bylaw. And it's it says for fire apparatus, so, I mean, we could, if council decide to purchase another fire truck or do that, we can do another draw to top off, so.
Okay, thank you.
Dale?
Carla, I really appreciate, the administration, the time you've put into this budget. I know we've asked a lot of questions in that, and we need to understand, and, I support a tax reduction like you see, but I think it's important to recognize that the pressures that residents are under, and that's what this is reflecting, that we understand where they are. At the same time, though, by reducing those taxes, our responsibility to ensure that being as disciplined and strategic as possible with spending, and that's where my questions are coming from. And I do hope, I do have some questions around the long-term sustainability, which we started to talk about, and particularly capital commitments, and we've heard that the grants that we possibly had got, or might not be there in the future, so that's a very concern. And how we're gonna progress to a sustainable reserve level is really critical. And so I need to ensure that what we're doing today for the relief currently, that we're not gonna create a larger financial pressure later on. So thank you. And I know that we have questions. I do support what we have with the adjustments that we made, and then throughout the rest of the year, we can be continually looking at things and, if possible, improve some more. So thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I'd like to thank Carrie as well too with this. He did a lot of work as well, and the whole team, everybody, the whole team, the whole county. The managers worked hard. The new county CAO, and just saying that is Brian. Everybody really worked hard on it. So.
Okay, Ann?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Voltner, your question about law enforcement, our intent is when we look at service delivery, we want to look at that specifically because we hear that as well, that we are making money because we farm out our services to other municipalities. So that's things that you'll see coming up in the next few months, and we'll bring it forward and show you what the revenue is. We won't have time to get it done till April probably, but just be assured with that. And then to Deputy Reeve Johnson, we are very conscious of making sure, we know that council's, one of your pillars is fiscal responsibility and sustainability, but we are looking every day at how we're delivering services, and we're going to make sure to make those efficiencies as we move forward.
Thank you.
Mike?
No, just want to say thanks for working on this. I know you guys have been putting in extra hours. Just one question on the special transportation. It went up some here too. Just wondering what that's regarding.
Part of that is we had a transfer from our family community support services into that budget, and it's basically a net zero effect. It's a transfer in between departments on the budget. So it's between special transportation and family and community support of $12,500. So that was removed out of there. And I think there's a little bit more money going to reserves as well too into that. Just so maybe can add to that.
Yes, that's correct. The reserve per the agreement is topped at $150,000.
Hello?
But because we had that in excess, we didn't contribute as much last year. Because of the
I'm just
purchasing
on
costs
on
West
another
End
phone.
that's been
Can I call you
depleted, so
back?
that has to be replenished now.
Okay, bye.
And I can provide the actual dollars to that if you wish.
Thank you. All right. Further questions? If not, continue on.
If we're comfortable with this, we can go to page 7. So this is just another, whoop, that's good, that one. So this is just another viewpoint of the budget. I actually like this viewpoint of the budget. It paints a different picture of everything. So this is just a summary of just the net changes of the different categories throughout the system.
It's page 3 for us. Barry.
Page 3.
Okay, anyone have questions on that one? Dale?
Just a brief explanation on requisitions. I had a question posed to me. What does that really entail?
Well, that's going to be your school requisition, your education requisition is in there. Also is the Laxdam Foundation. the designated industrial, that's more to do with the non-residential properties. And also we do, it's not a requisition, but we do have the policing invoice in there as well too. So it'd be a combination of those. Now that's seen a pretty significant increase at 12% for sure, so.
Yeah, I know, it's massive. Dale?
So I do have another question. I know that, you know, I can't really call it discretionary expenses or not. I'm not 100% sure, but when on contracted and general services, we're up at 9.2 million. I'm wondering, an explanation on that.
Absolutely. The bulk of that is to do with the Northeast Lagoon, that we have to show that in the budget, so we had to add that $600,000 in there. I can do some more looking in there to see what else is in there for contracted services. I know part of it is we're getting the IT review as well too, is what would be falling under contracted services, which is an addition. But the biggest bulk of that is the Northeast Lagoon, because we do have to show it in and out in our system. So it'll be $600,000 in contracted services. And if you look up above under revenue, just above, or kind of in the middle there where it says total revenue, there's $800,000. So that's the cost that we're putting in for Northeast Lagoon. It's $800,000 in revenue and $800,000 in expense. So, okay, so that would be the bulk of it for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bo?
Just looking at the net taxation, we went from 2025 budget of 32,488,197 to 33 million. So that's an increase almost of $1 million, but yet we were able to reduce the mill rates or the actual taxation. Congratulations. It looks like you did a lot of hard work digging through every line, and you've accomplished what we've asked. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And again, the thank you needs to go to the whole team at Lac-Saint County because
Absolutely.
everybody worked very hard on this. So.
I do realize
But
you're
we
not the only one
appreciate,
doing
we
this
appreciate
job.
that very much.
Thank you, Terry, and
Yeah.
everybody else.
So the reason why net taxation is increased, yes, it's true. We're doing a reduction of residential taxes and non-residential. But what you also have to understand is that is the revenue for the requisition collection is recorded under net taxation as well too. So the big increases for the Alberta education, all that is sitting under there. So that's why it's increased.
Exactly, yeah, thank you. Okay, further questions?
Any more questions on this page? If not, we can go to page 4. My page 4. Yeah, just a different description of all the changes that we did make. We started off on version 4 of a deficit of $114,000. We went through, did various amendments, reductions here and there on different things for $106,000. We did reduce the airport to match what was in the 2025 budget of $10,000. So it's a net zero effect because we carry forward those dollars into 2026. There was an aerial project, photo project that was in GIS. It's kind of a special project, so we felt we could fund that from the infrastructure reserve. We reduced fleet services, just different things in all over the place. And then at the end of the day, I guess the biggest significant thing I need to talk about here, we did have a loss in the linear assessment in order to try to get us balanced. We did for that $97,000. We did reduce the asset revitalization. But as I said, which I don't like to do, the more we can put into reserves, the better we are. But again, with our surplus at the end of 2025, we can probably put another $400,000 into that asset revitalization. So, and then of course, the small business because more people ended up on the small business, it did decrease the amount of property tax we were receiving by $27,000. And then that's just showing the net effect on the Northeast Lagoon Extension cost share and the debt that would fund it. So we ended up bringing it in for a surplus of $232,000, and then that brought into comes into the next page where we work it out on the tax rate. So
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that page? Go ahead.
Quick one. So with those adjustments then, when we're working on the next budget for when we start in July or whenever we start that? Okay. So,
Next week.
oh, yeah. Anyways, there are departments that actually over budgeted, right? And we're gonna be looking at those to make sure we get a more accurate number, so that if my budget, for example, I budget in my department 200,000, but I really only spend 100 or 125, we gotta make sure we get our departments to give us a better budget, more accurate. That would be my comment there.
Ann?
Thank you. Through the chair to Deputy Reeve Johnson. We do, and it's an organizational philosophy that we want to filter through everybody to be mindful of that. We encourage accurate budgeting, and sometimes in my past, you really notice that sometimes people just add 2% or whatever the, inflation is, but we really try to encourage thoughtful budgeting, meaning, yes, these are the true costs, but accurate budget. Every time you look at a line item, you should be saying, do we really need this? How come we didn't spend it? Then we don't need it for next year. So we're really trying to get that through the minds of everybody in the organization, so they're looking at that all the time.
Through the chair, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, any further questions? Okay, moving along.
okay, let's move on to my page of 5. Yeah, so this just brings in, shows you the reductions of the 2% for a reduction of $210,000 for residential condo down 1,300, non-res linear down 284, and small business down $15,000. I do need to really make sure council is fully aware. Small business, you might get a couple of complaints this year that said, hey, our tax rate didn't go down. I just want to remind council that when I did the tax rate bylaw in 2025, the threshold fell below the 75%. I had to do another tax rate bylaw to make that so it was through legislation. I had to do that almost my last year retiring, which I was really happy about not, but it happened. So it is going to be up a little bit from what they got last year. So you might hear some complaints about that, and I just want to make sure you're fully aware of that situation. And anyways, we brought it down for our surplus for 232 reductions. We have a little bit of growth in there, and this also includes the reduction of the linear tax we lost as well too. So as you can see, actually very up at the top there under growth and inflation, if you look down, that's how much we kind of lost on linear, is about $159,000. So
Go ahead, Mike.
Why did we lose on linear taxes? What stuff got shut in or just?
I think there was some stuff removed, and then the last change that came through, I think there was an error done by the province. There was an error and they sent it out. So it was a big error, $4.2 million. That's a big hit for us. So, but I'm glad they sent it to us, because otherwise they typically wait until they actually do the 305. So they gave us information ahead of the time, which I appreciated, so that we can make sure we adjust the budget accordingly.
Any further questions on that? No? Okay.
Okay, so the next couple of pages just shows some of the different examples of properties within the municipality, how it's going to change. So on typical on this, if you just want to stay in this page for a second, on $400,000 assessment, your taxes are going to go down $41.31 for a residential. So, As I said, the market's cooled down a little bit, so in some spots, some of the east properties of the country residential zone, their assessment has actually come down $18,000 on this particular property that was picked. So, you know, they're gonna see definitely a bigger reduction. As you see down below that, their school taxes are going up, as well as RCM police. This might not exactly match to the release that was given, the media release a couple of weeks ago. And the reason being is when the new assessment dollars were provided on Wednesday, we have to change the rates to make sure that we're collecting the right amount. So just in case you see that and say, hey, we said this, and now it's showing this, that's the reason why. It fluctuates those rates.
So
We-
how much is the difference? So in case I do get quizzed on
I
it,
will find out for you and
and,
provide that
yeah,
information.
If you can give me some,
Yep.
a page on that, if I'm ever talking to someone, I like to be somewhat accurate when I talk to media.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, if you can give me a one page or just that I get that into my head, and when I get asked, I can talk about it properly. Thank you.
Through the chair, I just think we'll give key messaging to the Reeve for speaking notes, but also have the information for other members, so when they're approached by the public too, they're familiar.
Yeah, I think that is really important, that we get those key speaking notes, that everyone has them, and that the message is the same, whoever we talk to. And preferably as accurate as possible. That's, then it's always defendable. Yeah, same story. Yeah, good, thank you.
Okay, so if you can just go, keep on scrolling through here.
I do want to make a comment. In going through this, I was actually amazed that our small increase or decrease in what we were putting onto, small decrease we were putting on the taxes actually overrode the added costs of school and RCMP, and I was pretty excited to see the examples that you provide, that just about everyone, and I know individuals won't, but most are going to actually see a bottom dollar that's lower than it was in the 25 tax bill, and that to me is massive. Even though it's small, it is really putting a message out there.
And again, I mean, that all depends on the assessment, like, for sure. Actually, like these ones here, I mean, and like I just picked some spots here and there, but I know the Southern Rec Zone person here, if you want to just go up a little bit here or down. Yeah, Southern Rec Zone, like,
Yeah, he's
they're
going
gonna
up.
see an increase for sure, so. So, I mean, it definitely fluctuates here and there, but it was helpful for sure. Absolutely, hands down, so.
Yeah, and that is something that, like, when you do the speaking notes, that it would be good, and even show that there's one or two areas that aren't going to see that reduction, and then we can explain why. But generally speaking, it is down, and under this period in time where we have inflation, and that to be able to even hold it steady but actually lower it a little bit, I think that speaks to the strength and the work that staff has done and the pushing by council to get that done. I really do think that's part of it. Bo?
I was just wondering if you could touch on the category recreational lake zone and southern rec zone. What makes them different?
It's just because
There were some properties that I noticed last year that were always increasing on market value. So, and some that were staying steady. The eastern one that I picked was something that had been increasing on their assessment. So I had kind of been monitoring them, and so that I picked that one in particular, and they actually had a bit of a decrease this year. So, and the other one was kind
I
of
was
steady,
just
and
gonna
now they
add
have
some
an increase.
humor.
So
Just add some humor is You know, some can afford it and some can't.
Yeah, Bo,
He's not listening.
Bo's okay with that, eh?
Sorry, that was just meant for humor, not any other purpose. Okay, go ahead, Carl.
Okay, and then the next couple pages, if you, it's just, whoops, just go up, back up there a little bit, go to page, yeah. So this is just some non-residential and some small business changes, so. They're actually seeing a pretty good increase, as you see for the school taxes, 13.4%, and our CMP 35% on that one, so quite a bit, but. Okay, let's go down to the next page. Okay, so this is a document I know you have not seen yet. So this is just a look at our grants, where they're at. So coming in from 2025, we had a carryover of $653,000. We're anticipating to get, well, we are getting the little over $2 million, ending up at $2.7 million for available balance in 2026. If you just want to scroll down a little bit, please. So this kind of shows how we're funding. There's some carryovers from 2025 in there, and then some projects that we have funding for. This is all capital projects in the budget. I have left a placeholder in there for the financial software. It is coming. I don't know, we're going to get some costs on that, see what that is, but we will have to replace our financial software because it will not be supported. And we need it to survive. It has our property taxes, utilities, payrolls, general ledger. So we're going to leave that just as a placeholder for right now. At the end of the day, we have still $203,000 that we can use for other spending. And I think Anne wanted to touch base a bit on this, but we could leave it in here in case something comes up. You guys are going through some strat planning. There could be some things that you maybe want to address in 2026. This would be available money to you.
I was just wondering if you could explain the financial software. We're not the only ones doing this. It's something that's mandatory for all municipalities, and maybe the public needs a clear explanation of what that's about.
Absolutely. So we've had our financial software now since 1997. It was announced a couple of years ago that they will no longer be supporting this software program. It will be done, I believe, in 2029. They will no longer be putting through any type of software releases, or the support will be gone, that sort of thing. So we're not the only, there is several municipalities within the province that uses Great Plains Dynamic software. Lots of them have moved and they've got other software companies now to do it, but there's lots out there. And so we are not alone out there in this. We need it to function. We have specialty programs from our property taxes, utilities, all that. So we can't just go and purchase an ad hoc program off the shelf to maintain this. So there's a lot to it, so.
Thank you. Through the chair, that little bit of funding may help us. Next week, I will be presenting council's strategic plan, and then we will be looking at updating our municipal development plan, looking at our asset management plan, so then council can make a decision where they want to go, and it'll give us a bit of room to decide if we want to move forward with one of those plans.
Just, we were just at the RMA meetings, and one of the sessions was AI and municipal governance. And, there appears that we're not doing a whole lot of that here, as I understand. But I think it's something that we may want to investigate before we go ahead and purchase a new software program, that maybe it needs to tie into this AI capabilities that are there, that some of those programs seem to be around. They work for municipal government, and I think we, before we move too far ahead and spend any money on replacing this program, we better have that discussion and have some information as to what we might be able to get that may be more cost effective.
Thank you. Through the chair, we are looking at all of that through the review of the IT services. The person is looking at how our systems are, how they work, how they talk to each other, but also how we're doing and providing those services. So that will be looked at through the IT review.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just thinking, as we move forward, this whole AI picture is moving extremely fast, so we don't want to be totally behind and make sure that that is looked at, and I'm sure you will.
I just want to make mention to, I know this is expiring in 2029, but I know we want to make sure that we're making the right moves and doing the right things to move forward in the future, and I appreciate that. But we can't leave this project too long. We're going to run out of time. It is a project that's going to take probably a good year to implement once it's in. So we need to make sure that we have that time to do it so that we can function as a municipality for sending out invoices and stuff too. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's why I want to do it as quickly as possible, and I understand that. Any further comments? Dale? Go ahead, Dale.
So my question, you know, the LGFF and the grants we have, we're pretty much topped out. Am I correct?
I don't understand the question.
Are we borrowing, or did we get, are we using those funds there, that's just about all we're gonna get?
Well, we are allotted annually.
Yep.
If you just want to go up here a little bit on this, like in 2026, we were allotted over $2 million.
Correct.
Last year, we were allotted about the same. So they guaranteed us that, I think it was 24, 25, 26. And then it's a grant that usually they'll come back and say, you're going to get so much money annually. As far as the provinces, I mean, it's always a risk. We've looked, if that's what you're referring to, the province, I mean, for years now, they said, you know, we might cut back MSI when, or it used to be called MSI, or stop funding it. That's always a risk. It always happens. I remember when I was just first started the county there back in the early 90s, and they cut all of our grants out. All we had for a grant, we didn't have nothing one year, and they came in and walked in a check with us for $100,000 one year, and we were so happy that we had this check for $100,000. But they did cut it. I mean, is it a potential, is a possibility? Absolutely, for sure it is. But if that ever happens, we'd have to take a strong look to restructure, and council would have to make some tough decisions on what we need to do to manage that. But right now, for both these grants, I mean, it is something that we are receiving. We do try to spend it throughout a fiscal year to help fund our capital projects, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
I think in my question would tie in directly with the strat plan and the capital plan and the whole 9 yards to make sure that we're able to make those moves. If we do a project today that's going to require funding for the next 5 years from somebody else, and it doesn't happen in the 4th year, now we're in a situation. So that's what I was curious about.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to borrow against a future grant. Yeah, I would not recommend that.
Thank you. That's what I
just,
wanted to
that's,
hear.
I
Exactly.
don't.
And
Through the chair to Deputy Reeve Johnson, I would say that's a very good point, but that's why recent lobbying efforts on behalf of Reeve and Council are so critical, because organizations like RMA continue to monitor these, push the government to make sure that we are having sustainable grant funding and that it continues into the future and that it goes to all municipalities, not just the larger.
Thank you.
yeah, good point. Okay. Any further questions? Okay, move along.
Okay, let's go on to the next page. So this is our CCBF grant and STIP grant. So this one basically, we did have a carry forward at the end of the year. Our anticipated grant is $736,000. I haven't seen where it's been officially announced yet, but we have received this grant for several years. So if we go down a little bit further, we can see how it's funding different projects. We have the bridges. We do have a placeholder here for the bridge, that bridge from Rochford Bridge in there for $367,000. That's being funded with this grant with insurance proceeds. So we'll see what happens with that whole situation. We have the bridges in here, that emergency bridge operation that was approved at the end of the year. And then we have the last three bridges on there. The last three bridges were all applied. We applied for STIP funding as well for these. So what may happen, STIP funding isn't typically announced until between May and July. So if they come back and say, you know, bridge fell, let's pick the bottom one, 7483 for $120,000, we're going to fund 75% of that. It will release some extra dollars to this grant. Okay, so it will increase the amount of the 127,000 by a certain amount, whatever that is. So that will give some more available grant monies for different things. We typically use this for our bridge program. We did use it for a little bit of work at Spruce Lane last year, and in the middle there's the Township Road 540. That's that resource road grant. So that's the balance that we're anticipating to be happening on this particular one in 2026. So.
Just curious on the bridges, are one of those bridges on 540 part of the road construction, or is that included in the road construction budget?
I don't know off the top. I don't think
I'll
so,
find
but we can find out for you for sure.
Thank you.
Can you tell by the land location? No? Okay. Well, I don't think it is because none of those look like the land location is 540.
Yeah, I'm
got-
positive that it's nothing on 540, but
It might be close at southeast.
yeah, it might be
southeast
close
west of
there, but
855.
but I think that's gonna bring. We'll make sure. We'll bring it.
Yeah.
Get back to you.
Okay, any further questions on that page? If not, move along.
Okay, so let's move on to the next page. This is just the proposed capital budget. So this shows all the capital projects for road transportation, community services, infrastructure services. Discussed there was, I just want to make and we did remove the truck of extra, the fire truck. All that we have in here for the fire truck purchase is the one that was carried forward from 2025. Otherwise, it wasn't changed. We moved the Type 1 fire truck as well too from here. So this includes both 2025 and 2026 budgets. So the carry forwards that were approved by council and the new budgets that were approved in 2026. So if we just want to go down to the bottom of this page, giving us a total capital budget for 2026 of a little over $8 million. Is there any questions on this page?
Dale?
So, I know that we had received a report from the road foreman. Are any of those shoulder pulls able to be deferred? And I don't think he gave us the answer. Because I think he was supposed to come back and say, okay, according to the stats of the usage and that sort of stuff, there would be, but I didn't see any information about that. So I'm wondering if any one of those are deferrable till next year.
Just, we did ask that question, and he cautioned, he said, if we don't do them, then it'll backlog it further on, and that their general plan is to do this many miles every year, and if we don't, then that will backlog and create a bigger stress later. So, you know, if I remember his comment right, he said, sure, we could, but we'll probably pay extra for it in the years to come.
And I think I asked if there was some stats on that, and we haven't
Yeah,
got that.
okay. Mike? Okay. Bo? No, got it? Okay.
Yeah, and Brad's going to pop in here just to discuss. Okay.
Good, thank you.
So we can go to the next page if you like, when we're talking about this. So this just has a kind of a look at all of our funding. So reserves, $604,000. Insurance, 1.4, that's to do with that bridge collapse. We have some contributions, exhaust scrubbers, that's to do with the town of Marathon contribution for the ERC building. Sale of assets, so the graders that we're trading in, we'll get some asset money from them to help fund those graders, along with the LGFF. We have some contributed assets in here. So what's going on here is the cold storage is basically there's going to be no cash exchange between our main insurance and the county. So we have to record it as a contributed asset in here because it's going to be built and they're going to sign it off to us. And the shoulder poles are in here because it's basically our own sources, our labor and our equipment that are doing it. So basically we're contributing to our own asset in here. So we just have to record it this way in order to show that that asset is being funded. And of course, we have the capital debt funding for the fire engine, $725,000. The engine is in for $740,000, but there is a little bit, the original budget was to take a little bit from the reserves, so that's why that's the debt funding for $725,000. And then we go the Township Road 540, that's that Resource Road grant. That's the funding that's covered from them, which is a 50-50 grant. Do you want to go to the next page, please? And this is our breakdown of funding for the CCBF grant and the LGFF grant, where that's all funded. At the end of the day, the total capital asset funding is a little over $8 million, which luckily matches what we're spending, so that's always a good thing.
So
Okay.
through the chair, I'd like to ask our manager, at one of our previous meetings, you'd mentioned that, I think our question came up, can we defer any of the shoulder pulls, one or whatever? You indicated that we probably could, and then I think question was back, well, do we have some stats to relook at that? You also mentioned that if we don't do one, that just pushes it farther ahead, but that is my comment. Can we get away with one less this year?
Hi, thank you. Through the chair, yeah, we could. We definitely could. Again, they don't go away, so it just gets moved down the line and it continues that way. But I mean, I'd be willing to if needed for the cause.
And I think my point is not to totally defer from that program, but to pull it back a tiny bit, which may help as well.
Just my comment, I think we want to be very careful about maintenance things. You know, we've experienced the provincial government quit maintaining highways in the 90s and we're still paying for it. And there are times when it's way cheaper to keep things maintained properly than to let the thing collapse and then we have problems. So it's a good question, but from my point of view, that small amount of budget to ensure that we keep our roads maintained in a proper fashion, I think makes some sense. Okay, I had Ed first.
No, I just wanted to say the same thing. It's a low ticket item, like 90 to 100 grand for one shoulder pulse, right?
Well,
I think where we can make up our concern would be in efficiency, if we can find better ways of doing these shoulder pulls, because we're doing quite a few of these a year, and even though they're only $100,000, there's many of them, and we have many coming in the future. So if we can get some better kind of ideas maybe that can benefit us in the long run, that'd be ideal, and I'll leave that up to Brad.
Thanks. Through the chair. Yeah, I'm always looking for ways to improve and to get better for sure. And again, just to kind of point out when it comes to shoulder pulls and the cost of them, when we're looking at that total of what is it, 88,000 for 2 miles or something, that includes all of our labor costs and everything that's just in-house, right? So the outside, that's a hard cost, right? So when we're looking at our soft costs, we're kind of looking at locates, gravel. So it actually kind of drops lower anyway when you look at it that way, because our wages and in equipment and everything else, they're just gonna be doing a different project, so those are costs that are incurred regardless of what project they're on, so just something to keep in mind.
Thank you. Any further comments on that? Dale?
Yeah, and that's fine with the explanation. I mean, I needed that explanation, and I'm quite confident that it's okay with me. I have to ask the question, because you never know, might say, no, I can get away with one less, no problem. If I don't ask, you can never say.
Discussion is good. All right, thank you. If there's no further questions on that, let's continue on. Thank you, Brad.
Sure, so is there any other questions on the capital budget?
No, doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Continue on.
So let's go to the last page I have in the budget presentation. This is just to take a look at debt. So you've seen this page before. I just adding that part 2 sewer transmission line. So this kind of shows where we're at. Again, we're still in good.
Sorry, go ahead.
Through the chair, can we excuse Brad, or do we have more questions? It's just that he's got quite a bit on his plate today.
No, of course, yeah. Make sure those culverts are all running.
Thank you, yes, that's
Yeah.
a big priority today, thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Appreciate the information, too.
Okay, go ahead, Carla.
Yeah, so this is just a page taking a look at our different debt and everything. So our debt at the end of 2025 was about $8.1 million. And in the 26, including that other, would be about 8.3. We've paid off some debt in there as well too. So we are paying off quite a bit of debt. If you look kind of in the middle of the page, you can kind of see when the debt is expiring. So Donaway Medical Clinic is done in 2026. We'll make our final payment. One of the Township Road 590 is done. 2027, we can see a few other ones completing. So we have a bit of debt over the next few years that we'll be completing, fulfilling that obligation. So that's always a good thing. So I know we've did add a little bit of debt. We had to add some cold storage in 2025. We have the fire apparatus that was added as well too. But overall, we're in pretty good shape for that, for sure. We're definitely, I think we're around between 17, 19% above that of our debt limit. So that's a really good positive position to be in.
Okay, any questions on the debt portion? Dale?
My only question is, I think we'll see where we are when we get a balance sheet coming up, then we know where that particular, whether we saw at the convention where there's been, some of the places are like 0.9 on a current ratio, and some are in the red. And, we don't want to be there.
Okay.
Through the chair to Deputy Reeve Johnson, that's part of our new policy on financial reporting. And next week, now that Carla may be done the budget, Carla and Terry and I are working on our first presentation to council and the public on budget to actual.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Just curious on the North 43 Lagoon Force Main collection and North 43 Lagoon Force Main oversizing. I don't recall any discussion on that.
That's a long time ago that was put in. That was probably in 2018 that came through. So that's a force main over on that transmission line. Yeah. So that was all approved back in about 2018, 19.
This was in addition to what was initially funded, is that correct?
Yeah, it was our share. So the province at that point in time, I believe, the grants at that point in time were covering 69.22% of, so which now it's pretty good, it's 90%. But, and then there was a share between Lac-Saint County, I believe Ross Haven, Yellowstone. And so there was a cost share between all those. And so that was our share of it. The oversizing the county did more so that we were looking at growth. We want to make sure that it was sustainable for us. So we did a little bit of oversizing on that line. So, But the collection line was shared between those other municipalities on the balance of that was left on the grant.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Okay. That's the end, right?
That's the end. So are we good with everything? I do have a tax rate bylaw coming to council for first reading next week. So
Dale?
I do have one question. I'm not sure if this is the time to bring it up. We had talked previously, not at the council table here, but about the amount of money that we give out to different foundations and halls. And I see that we had spoke as a council whether we can actually decrease that to some extent without hurting any of the facilities that we help pay. And we got a large spreadsheet of what was given out. And I know that in the budget, we're still including the full amount. And I'm wondering if we can have a discussion about that?
Trista?
Thank you through the chair. We certainly can have that discussion. So the spreadsheet that I provided was based on the 2025 actuals that were allocated through all of the different programs. I do just have now a spreadsheet that would show how we can play around with those numbers. The difficulty that we have is without knowing what you want to reduce, we don't know how far we can roll that back. So the spreadsheet that I'll send here shortly, which you can play in, will have the formulas based so you can reduce it by 30%, 10%. You just pump the number in and it will work, hopefully. So I'll send that out. Right now, the budget is at, some of the dollars are reduced from the 2025 budget. So that'll show in this spreadsheet as well. But if you want further reductions, then we can do that. So for example, I'll just pull the general donations and sponsorships and contributions. That's already reduced 16% in the current budget from 2025. But if you want it reduced further, we can still play with that number a bit.
Further? Dale?
I think our discussion, first of all, our discussion, not formally, we weren't sure. Some of them are ICFs and some of them, so that's already, we can't play with those per se. But there are some other ones that we can play with. And I think that's the ones that I'd be interested in looking, see where they are. And I'm certainly not saying no funding, but I'm saying if we're having to pull in our purse strings and we have to maybe do something similar on the money that we give out, which is taxpayers' money. Bo?
Yeah, that's something we can work on throughout the year. I'm sure we're going to be reducing services and we're going to be looking at this spreadsheet. And I just wanted to thank Trista for the spreadsheet. This is awesome. This is what we needed to keep track of where all these grants and everything goes. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bo. And I do, I think it's, and I know what you're asking for, but I think if we're going to have that full discussion here, it's going to delay our budget probably quite significantly. And I like Bo's suggestion that we work on that as we go forward and leave the budget the way it is now. And then, you know, those grants come to our table anyways, and we can make those decisions as we go and as we go through our strat plan with it moving forward. Trista?
Thank you through the chair. So certainly the most recent spreadsheet I sent you does show the required contributions through either ICF, a different agreement, by motion or by policy. So those are all outlined in there. Hopefully my color coding made sense. What we do have in the budget currently is we do have some of those allocations separated out. So if you want to keep the number, we could remove the actual, those allocation names so they're not listed in the budget per se, and then it would come back to council for further consideration. Then it's not binding us publicly that, you know, this group will get this much money because that's what it says in the budget. it allows you to come back and have that discussion.
And
Through the chair, if I'm understanding this correctly, you're just saying put a lump sum in so it's not specified. Okay, thank you.
well, that's the way it is right now, right?
No, in the
Well, we've-
presentation that you
The
have,
budget
it's lumped.
actually shows,
Some of the allocations would be shown as an actual allocation because they've been done historically year over year over year. So
Okay.
to earmark them, we mark them in the budget separately. But we can definitely remove those unless they're in there by policy or by motion. Then we could do
so
that.
how easy is it for you to do that for us? That seems not real simple.
No, I think I think it's quite simple.
It is quite simple?
Yeah, it doesn't change
Okay.
the bottom line at all, so
Yeah.
you won't get a different number. It'll just remove those earmarked that aren't by policy or by motion.
Okay, well, then, I think that makes sense. Yeah, and that gives us some flexibility if we need it. And,
Through the chair, I think that's good because then, say it's $65,000, it just says grant funding and then council can determine where they'd like to see those dollars.
yeah, I think that makes sense. Council, what do you think? Dale?
And that was
Yeah.
exactly why I brought this up, and I appreciate the spreadsheet, because that helps us as well, because previously, we weren't sure the commitments that were made by LGF or the ICFs or whatever they are, right? So I'd be happy with that. Yeah.
Okay, how's everyone else with that? You okay? Okay,
No, I
Trista?
think that's a good idea too.
Thank you through the chair. What's easy enough to do with that spreadsheet that I sent, because it's by an Excel spreadsheet, you can plunk in whatever numbers you want and the formula should calculate to the bottom to see where you're at bottom dollars. So if you want to play around and throw, Trista Courts Fund, $100,000, you could do that and see how it plays into it.
Did you see how she snuck that in there?
Carla should have said the Carla Retirement Fund is what it should have been.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, so what do we need then? Do we need, is that enough direction that you just change the budget to, you pull out those that are by policy and agreement and just leave the rest as a lump sum?
Yeah, we'll work with
Trista
on that, so.
Okay, Ann?
Through the chair, I would just make a suggestion that council, if those changes, yes, we've got enough staff direction. However, if you're happy with this budget, if you adopt it as is, it'll give us, we can do a resolution and then we can bring forward the first reading of the tax bylaw next Thursday.
Yeah, so if we give that resolution, those changes would be part of that? Yeah, okay. All right. Sounds good? Did you have something, Trista?
I always
Carla?
have something to say.
You do? Okay.
Then
Yeah,
you'll be
you've
rid
only
of
got
me.
a few more days to tell us.
So,
Okay.
just before we have that discussion, I do want to hand out the wastewater lagoon. I'll just have a discussion about that.
All right. So this tax, that would come forward to our regular meeting next week, right?
Yes, so this is a part of course, our, when we send out our tax notice, this would be a part of this. It says wastewater tax bylaw. It will be coming to council at next Thursday's meeting for first reading. I just wanted to have a bit of discussion with it today because if council is considering the possibility, right now we have the two tiered rates. We have the $25 for residential properties, and then if you have holding tanks, you'll get, it goes up to $125. So I want to just discuss this with council today because if council is looking at changing that to maybe $25 across the board for 2026, then it will impact our 2026 budget. If we want, we can leave it status quo for 2026, and it can be a part of your strategic review throughout the year in 2026.
Go ahead, Bo. I was reading.
I would probably suggest leave it the way it is for now, because I believe with Ann, we're gonna be reviewing a lot of the utilities and how we're gonna deal with them in the future. So for now, I think that we'd be just kind of winging it.
I agree with Bo that we should leave it for now until we assess the utility side of things. Instead of, we got a lot to worry about already.
Okay. Ann?
Through the chair, one question that Trista just brought up. In the budget currently, the library is sitting at a 3% increase, and we just wanted to make council aware of that as well, just to point that out.
Okay, thank you for that.
And I never had a question because I was under the impression that that is mandated to us by the government.
What's mandated?
The fees to the library.
That's not, I don't believe so.
No, through the chair, the amount that the county gives the Lac-Saint-Anne County Library Board is a decision of council. And so if you recall, a few meetings ago, the library board, Lac-Saint-Anne County Library Board requested a 3% increase. And so that request was received as information, and then we added the 3% into the budget. So that is currently sitting in there. The other piece, sorry, that I want to circle back to is the recreation tax currently in the budget is at the $100 per property.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Barry?
We can revisit the library funding then and adjust that if we needed.
With regards to the recreation tax, that'll be coming next week. With regards to the library, we have to address that now.
So as Ann said, right, as of, if we approve this budget, it's a 3% increase for the library board. They requested 5%, right? Yeah, and if we approve this budget, then it's actually a 3% increase.
That's a tough one.
Well, you know, I do sit on the library board, and Jill maybe would like to comment on that as well. Libraries are pretty important, and it's not a huge amount of money, and it does especially help some of the those that have a little less than others, and they're well attended. I think they help out a lot with lower income members of our community, and the better we help those that they get educated and pull them up into a little higher income bracket as the generations move ahead. I think that is a funding that I think we should really consider what it actually does. And to cut it back too much would, from my point of view, maybe we're not doing our job then.
No, one thing I'd like to bring up, like we have 3 libraries in Onaway, for instance. One at the high school, one at the elementary, and one in the center. That's something we need to look at. Like, do we need 300 yards apart? And I also asked, what's the attendance of these libraries? Because I've heard some pretty not great stories about the library in Onaway. So there is some issues there to discuss.
Jill?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we don't fund all of the Onaway one, correct, but not all. So it's Mayerthorpe, Onaway, and then Rich Valley, Sangudo, and Darwell. That's all. So the other 3, or the other 2 in Onaway is not our problem.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry, and Alberta Beach. Ooh,
Yeah.
don't hate me.
Bo?
Just looking at the numbers here, it looks like $261,000, $883 is what we fund the libraries, and the increase would amount to an extra 7,000, or included in that number would be 7,119. So it's not a considerable amount of money on the increase, but it definitely, we should review it during our services and get a little clearer path going forward with the libraries.
Yeah, that's good. Go ahead, Trista.
Yeah, so the 3% increase would only be on the contribution to the Lac-Saint-Anne County Library Board, so it's actually just under $6,000 increase. The Community Services Manager does have a library presentation available for council for an orientation, so that will be coming forward. Councillor Stoney's correct, we don't fund the school libraries, we do fund those other 6 points, but for clarification, we don't actually fund those libraries. We fund the Lac-Saint-Anne County Library Board, and they come up with the funding formula to distribute to the libraries. We don't have any say on that.
Thanks, Trista. Okay, Mike and then Dale.
Well, we kind of do fund them indirectly through the Northern Gateway School Board. That's why I brought that up once before. If we could consolidate with the school board, it might save us one library, or, you know, I don't want to shut them down, but don't get me wrong, but maybe we can, you know, talk to Northern Gateway and see why we got to have a separate one in between the 2 schools in Onaway. Might save us, you know, I don't know what it would save us, but be definitely, I think, worth looking into.
I'll just let me answer that for there is an issue with having our school, our library tied with the school, because with the policies that the provincial government has now put out, is some books are not allowed in the school libraries. Our libraries state, you know, part of their principle is to allow, don't censor what's in the libraries. And the schools do. So if we were tied in with the school library, then we're suddenly under those rules. And then Huckleberry Finn would not be allowed in our library, for
We can
example.
always have a good book burning if
It's
there
just
needs
an
to be.
example. And so that becomes a bit of an issue as to joining up with them. Even because we talked about that at length at the library board meeting as well. Okay, Dale?
Yeah, I'm certainly not, I'm not looking to reduce them at all. I'm just saying that this whole budget process that we've done, we're ensuring that they're being delivered efficiently as possible. That's what I'm saying. And that would be for us to look at in the next budget cycle, so that we understand, you know, what the usage is, and the cost and all that. Thank you.
Barry?
Through the chair, what I'm looking forward to is these really great discussions with council on each individual service that we deliver. And I think with all of us looking at these, we can find how we're delivering them. Do we want to continue? And do we want to continue doing it differently? So I'm really looking forward to those discussions.
Thank you, Ann. Barry?
Just curious, do they come with increases every year that they want, or is this the first time in a long time? What's the average increase been for the last 5 years? Do we have that number?
Go ahead, Trista.
Through the chair, yes, we have that number. Do I have it in front of me? No. I believe, I don't want to speak out of turn, so I'll provide those numbers to you, but there is a regular increase that does go to them.
Okay, so,
I think the answer is all of the above.
yeah, so they've
there-
been asking for increases every year.
Yeah.
At some point, we might have to say, okay, well, we have to do more with less. That's what we're being asked. That's what the province is telling us.
I
We
think
have to
that,
follow suit.
I think that takes us back to what Ann is saying is let's back off, take a look at what it is we expect and have a full discussion. Some of it is, I think we do have to have a little faith in the people we put on those different boards and bring it back, or we have the full discussion on everything, and that's you know, something we have to deal with at some point, because we've got all these committees we sit on, And do we take the recommendations from the people that sit on them, or do we need the full discussion that's at the boards, the other boards? That's a decision we have to make as a council as well. Trista?
I found the information. So it was presented with their letter of request back in February. So I will resend this out to you, but it does look like an average of, yeah, definitely over the last 5 years, an average of 3%.
Thanks, Trista.
Thanks for doing that.
Okay, further discussion? So, are we okay then with leaving it as the budget is for this year? And then we take that as a task that, as all other services, we'll have a look at things? Is that okay? I see nods. Okay, good. So we'll leave that in the budget for this year. Okay, thank you. All right, so do we need a motion here already? Or it's just the, we do need a motion? So we have one there. All right, so is someone willing to make a motion? Okay, Bo? All right, Bo is making which motion?
Option number 1, that county council accept the 2026 proposed operating capital budget version 5 as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Hey, you were in the legislature too much. All right, any further discussion on that?
We did make some amendments, did we not, though?
We have that under staff direction through the chair. I just want to say thanks to council and patience with everybody because we all did a lot of heavy lifting on both sides of the table. So appreciate the collaborative effort.
Thank you, Ann. Yeah,
No, I'd just like to add, I do appreciate the hard work and that we did accomplish something with a new council and new CEO that fairly new to some of us. And hopefully look forward to looking deeper and growing this place.
all right. So, oh, Dale? Oh, all right. One more comment?
Yeah, happy retirement.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And I will add my thanks as well, Carla, to you and to your staff and Ann and the staff for, I think, the demands that we put on you, but I think demands that were necessary. And I really do appreciate the work and the patience you have with our new council, as has been mentioned before. And on behalf of council as well, we do wish you a very happy retirement and many, many more fun years. Not quite as much fun as doing finances, but fun years ahead. All right?
Thank you.
All right. So let's move on to our next agenda item. So A12, budget surplus discussion.
Yeah, we can just go through that. I did touch a little bit based on it, but as discussed, we were at, and we might, this is not quite final, but pretty close. We don't have it all, making sure, matching with the auditor to make sure we have all captured all 2025 entries. But we're looking at $1.1 million. They said there's anomalies throughout. We had some additional revenues, several things, and one of my recommendations is to bring it to council for next Thursday to apply a portion to increase our tax rate stabilization reserve and the balance to put towards our asset revitalization reserve as well too. So that will be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. So you'll be bringing that forward as a suggested resolution on next Thursday.
Yes, that's
All right.
correct.
Dale?
Just to be clear, so that will be restricted or non-restricted?
It is it's, again, council will be going through it. It's basically council's discretion on how to spend that, so, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on that? No? All right, then A13, or A3, sorry, the wastewater tax,
We did that.
or waste? what's
Sorry,
that?
I wasn't listening to the chairman.
Oh, we talked about it. So you don't need any more?
I wasn't listening to the chairman apparently and following his direction on the items, so I just jumped ahead.
Oh, okay, so nothing there. What's that? Yeah.
What are we gonna do, fire you?
Yeah. Ah. No, don't. Can't have that. Okay. Okay, next agenda item, county manager.
I have nothing, thank you.
Well, then why is it on the agenda?
I don't know.
That's okay. All right. With that, council, I must say, I really appreciate all the discussion and that we came up with a solution, and I think it's really important to have these open discussions on these items, but it's just as important to ultimately come up with an agreement. So each and every one of you, I thank you for your dedication to this process, and that we can continue on with that. So thank you very much, and certainly, I mean, I said already to staff, and we do appreciate the work.
We are a huge team going in the right direction.
All right, thank you. With that, I will declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.